Hey guys, Kevin here. What I'd like to do in this video is talk about the ZClassic donation fund and talk about whether it was worthwhile. I decided to mine to the ZClassic donation fund about a month ago, and the offer was that if you mine to the fund, you would get a multiplier and you would receive more Bitcoin private back in return. So the minimum multiplier was going to be 1.25. But okay, he's not going. Oh, now he's going. Good decision. The minimum multiplier was 1.25, but it looked like you were going to get more. Now, it was quite a frustrating thing at the very beginning, because the donation fund pool was going down all the time. You couldn't check your stats. It was always under maintenance, and it was a pain. And there was no guarantee that you would get a good multiplier. But in the end, the multiplier was just above 2. So for every 1 ZClassic that I earned, I got 2 Bitcoin private. Now that sounds like a great deal, but there are other things to consider. The first one being that the pool wasn't as productive as you think it would be. It wasn't performing as well. So, you know, in the beginning, because the pool wasn't big, there was a lot of variance. So what was happening was, at the very beginning, for example, whereas I was getting 0.65 in mining pool hub for ZClassic per day with my mining rigs, I was getting like 0.4, 0.5. So I was making less ZClassic. You know, these things even out over time, but because of the maintenance and because of the stats and all this, you know, all these things going down, then obviously it didn't perform as well from a ZClassic point of view. So I think at the end I earned about just under 10 ZClassic, but if I had mined to mining pool hub, it might have been like 13, maybe 14. But I got the multiplier, so for that my 9.9 or whatever it was I had, or I can't remember the exact number I had, I walked out with like 18 Bitcoin private. So that sounds good. But if I look in hindsight with the information I've got now, and the fact that Bitcoin private launched in Trade Satoshi, and over the last few days you're talking $60, $70, it's one of those things, you know, with hindsight you could maybe say, well, I should have just mined in a pool and got Bitcoin, and then I could have just bought Bitcoin private, and I might have even ended up with more. I haven't looked at the numbers, you know, did like a full calculation to see whether that is the case or not. I think it's very close, but I don't regret mining to the ZClassic fund. I think it was worthwhile, and it's donated to the Bitcoin private fund for them to, you know, get on exchanges, etc. But I mean, it all comes down to risk versus reward, you know. When you're doing things like this and you're mining a coin that you don't know if it's going to perform well, or you're mining to a fund and you don't know what the multiplier is, you're taking a risk, and the risk could pay off in a big way, or it may not. Now, from a mining fund point of view, I did quite well. I got 2 times as much Bitcoin private back as I did ZClassic, but I didn't get ZClassic coins because they took them. But because the price of Bitcoin private hasn't launched at a high price, I probably could have mined on pools just for Bitcoin, and then when Bitcoin private launched, then I could have just bought Bitcoin private. I don't think I've lost out though. I think it's very close as far as whether, you know, just mining somewhere else and buying it compared to the donation fund. I think it's very, very close as to where I am. But again, as I said, it's risk versus reward. I took a risk. If a Bitcoin private had launched at a really, really high price, then it would have paid off. It hasn't, but I still think Bitcoin private will come good. I still think it will do well, and it's worth noting that, you know, obviously everything is performing poor just now. Bitcoin Cash, Zcash, everything has dropped in price because of Bitcoin going down in the last few days. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because I know a lot of you guys mine to the donation fund, and a lot of you decided not to and just buy the dip. Buying the dip at the time I thought could be risky depending on what price Bitcoin private launched at. But in hindsight, buying the dip was probably a safer approach. It's interesting though. It's one of those things though, you know, if you're a miner, you know, rates are going down all the time, so you're kind of forced in a way sometimes to take risks to get a bigger reward. Not forced, but you know, it is worth taking risks sometimes. But we'll see what happens in the future when something like this comes up again. Maybe next time I decide not to mine it, or maybe go down the safe route and then just try and buy the dip or buy another coin. But thanks for watching, guys. If any of you guys donated to the ZClassic fund, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, whether you think it was worthwhile, or whether you think, you know, in hindsight, you should have just mined something else and then bought the coins later. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.